There we go. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And we will hear from Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you so much for joining us for our CRM user group call.
How's the volume? Can you guys hear it okay?
And hopefully you are started at your new job and everything is going great for you on this fine Thursday. So we are recording this earlier in the week, and I just wanted to see if you could give a little bit of introduction about yourself so we can get to know you.
Sure. So I started out in the AEC industry right out of school, working on the client side at UT Southwestern. And then my boss took me to her old firm when she was recruited back. And that's how I started at FKP as marketing coordinator. And then our company got bought out by a mega firm called Cannon Design up in the north. They had offices in New York and Buffalo and Chicago and Boston and Baltimore. And so they were buying our firm because we were located in Texas. And so when that happened, I became a marketing coordinator from marketing assistant. And then the company bought 4 firms in the span of a year, which was our firm, BWG, GKK, and Blue Cottage. And there was no one to keep the data organized and really work on processes to keep the information easily accessible for the marketing team to use for proposals. And I'm a very list-oriented person, organized person, and I felt going from a 100-person architecture firm to a 1,200-person architecture firm with 22 offices that I couldn't do my job until things got organized. And so I reached out to my manager and I learned about a CRM team that they had and a marketing system advisory group team, and picked their brain and just learned more about the data management side of things. And they let me create my own role as a CRM coordinator. And so for the year and a half that I was a CRM coordinator, I worked on several initiatives that I'm going to share with you guys today.
That's awesome. I just love your story so much, and that is the reason I asked you to be the guest speaker. So we'll go ahead and go through your slides, and then if other things come up, I'll ask you along the way.
Okay, great. So these are the different firms that I was telling you about, and I was just so frustrated because I was helping get their data into the different CRMs because not all of them use Deltek Vision or Salesforce or things like that, or I guess Open Asset 2, those were our main CRMs. So I was working with them to get all of their information integrated, and I was like, if we don't have a process moving forward, then how, it's like as soon as I clean up their messes, it's just going to keep getting messier. And so I worked with them, and then I wanted to create a process internally so that we are capturing information and keeping it organized as projects were happening, so that when a project was complete, we weren't searching for the information that we needed for a proposal. So the 2 initiatives that I worked on were a project data capture initiative and a marketing server reorganization initiative. And so I guess I'll talk about the project data capture initiative first.
Perfect.
So in order to make these processes successful, I had to have buy-in from different folks throughout the firm, because if you just tell somebody, hey, we're doing this, they're gonna be like, I don't want to do this. They have to understand why, and they have to be a part of the process. So this is actually a slide from my end of the year presentation that I did about my role. But for these different initiatives, I met with Robin Sagrano, who was our CEO's boss. I met with the East Coast staff. I met with the West Coast staff. I met with the office practice leaders, the business development team, the industry market leaders, the central region staff, the I met with all of these different groups for 30 minutes and just explained to them what was going on, explained to them the why we were doing this, and kept them involved throughout the processes. And so I think that's what helped with the buy-in for these, because it wasn't like, hey, I'm doing this process and we're just doing it. It was like I kept them engaged throughout it, and they got to say if they liked something or didn't like something and make changes before it went out to the entire firm. So.
I love that. And I always share in my trainings that you should start with your why. Specifically, did you have like an elevator speech as to what that why was? Did you just have a slide? How did you kind of incorporate that?
I always have a why slide, and I think for each of these initiatives, there's a why slide coming up. But this slide right here, so my mentor, who was part of the marketing system advisory group, she thought my initiative was very important and let me come to New York to meet with her and have a strategy session. And so we talked about what worked in the past, what didn't work, and why it didn't work. And so these were just like a brainstorm session that we had that I thought was really helpful, because it's always important to reevaluate why things didn't work in the past and understand like what did work so you can use that moving forward, and then just learn from other mistakes in the past. And I didn't know a lot of the things that they had done prior to me being there, so this was really helpful to get like the whole picture when I got to go to New York.
That's awesome.
Yes. So this is the Project Data Capture Initiative, and here's my why slide. So this is what we use to try to engage folks. We were doing this to improve our data so we could back up our expertise to show strength in numbers. We did it so we could have accurate benchmarking for surveys and proposals and things like that, and we were doing it to save time. So we were trying to figure out what would motivate the project managers to do this project data capture process, and if we could save time and they wouldn't have to ask the coordinators for the information every time, like the coordinators wouldn't have to ask the project managers, it would make everybody happy. So we were trying to find hot buttons that would get them engaged, because they're the ones that know the information, and if they're not putting it in their CRMs, then we don't know it. So we were just trying to get everybody on the same page, working together, and to understand that if we do this up front, it will save time in the future, and you won't have as many people asking you for the same information a zillion times for proposals and surveys and awards and stuff like that.
Love that. And love that you thought about it from their perspective. That's fantastic.
So this was our team. We once again got buy-in from the beginning, so we wanted to have a team in place of people that would be supporting us. So we had big people up top support and send out emails initially to get people excited and engaged and just understand that this needs to happen to keep us organized. We were a big company, and having the support from leadership, I think, is really helpful to get things moving. So, yes. And so for this process, we wanted to have it not for every single project, but all of our marketable projects. So we set a criteria, because if we were doing it for every single project, it would take a lot of time, and we were trying to save time. So we did projects that were 500K and above, and in certain percent completion phases. And we wanted to line this up with the communications team and work on significant projects that had good stories, and make sure that we were capturing the information up front. And so this was our criteria, so that we weren't tracking down information for like a small renovation or a small something like that, but only things that we were going to use in proposals and stuff like that.
Awesome. I love that you were very specific so that there was no question.
Mm-hmm. So this was the process that we came up with. So we had the project win and who would be working on it and where they would get the information. And so we wanted to let them know that we are getting as much information up front without having to contact the coordinators. So I was doing a lot of the upfront work, getting the information, and then when projects reached a certain phase, we would run a report from Deltec, and it would say which projects were in a certain phase so that they could ask the project managers for the information that would be available at that phase. Because half the time, so we, like in the past, they would have somebody reach out to a project manager and say, I need the square feet, I need this and that. And they would say, we don't have that information yet. So I interviewed project managers before all this happened to ask them in which phase we would have what information.
So smart.
And so we found out in pre-design that they would have dates, services, costs, estimated cost per feet. In construction documents, they would have other information, and in project completion, they would have all the information. But we were trying to get all of the estimated information up front because a lot of the times in proposals, they ask for that because they want to know if you stayed on schedule and on budget. And so tracking it when it happens in those phases instead of after a project's complete when you get a proposal and you're like, I think this was this much up front, and I think it was that. It's like you already have it documented and you have a starting point so that you're not trying to get all of the information at once. And so asking the project managers when the information is available was helpful. And then we found out from accounting that they had a whole report that shows when projects are in what phase. So we could have all the information correctly figured out.
Absolutely. I love also that you included images specifically, because I think that that's great, not only for marketing, but that everyone's on the same page. I remember when I first came into the industry that the images were kind of ambiguous, right? Like, at what point am I supposed to be able to get floor plans, or at what point am I supposed to be able to get the actual scope of the project, or like you said here, like blueprints. Like, I love that you have that identified on the chart as well.
Yeah, because they don't just think to give it to marketing, but those graphics and those blueprints and the different things that they create help tell the story. And so it's like, if we have them, it's like we don't know what we have until a project manager is like, oh, well, I actually have a cool thing that I did for that. And it's like, it would be nice to just all have it already and use it and not have to dig for it and stuff like that. So getting the information up front.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
And so we wanted to create tools. So we had a monthly progress report to see which offices were doing this, because we wanted to hold accountability, because there was no accountability before for entering project information into our CRM system. And so we wanted to kind of make it a contest, and in order to get more people involved, the principal for each office would see the report and be like, okay, marketing team, let's get together, Boston's beating us, stuff like that. So that's how we were trying to motivate people to do this. And then I created a bunch of videos and cheat sheets so they could have tools and resources. And then we had best practice sharing. And so if you go to the next slide, we created this little card to keep on everyone's desk as just a friendly reminder each month to do this, so that they would have all the information in front of them, and they would just remember, because it's really important. And when you have downtime in between proposals, there's not really much for you to do. And so this is something you can do to be proactive and productive. And we wanted everyone to just remember to do it so that we had it. So we made these little cards as part of our tools.
Man, you said my favorite word, and it's proactive. Mm-hmm. Because I think that sometimes, especially when we come to data, people think it's 100% reactive, and it doesn't have to be.
Right.
That's great.
And people get bored with data, and it's like, if you have the data, it's so helpful. Mm-hmm. And so the other initiative that I worked on was the marketing server reorganization initiative. So once again, this company had all these different companies come on board, all on different servers. There was no structure, there was no organization, and each market, health, because we were divided by market, so it's health, corporate, commercial, higher education. They each had a different way of saving things, but as marketing coordinators, you were expected to work across the different servers in different markets for different proposals, and you had to just know how each market saved their stuff. So it was very frustrating. So I did another initiative and brought it up to the marketing system advisory group, and this one I got help with. Because I couldn't do it myself because it was a huge undertaking. But we decided at our annual meeting that we wanted to establish consistency across the markets after frustration with inefficiency and the struggle to find information. We wanted to create a workflow for saving information so that we could, again, have it easily available and have it intuitive and not have to ask different marketing coordinators or principals, like, where's this proposal? Where's that proposal? Where's our most recent higher education? So we worked on this initiative too.
That's awesome. I love y'all's picture too, by the way.
Thanks. That was at our annual meeting, and we had to Photoshop a few people.
I saw that. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah. So health was filed by client, education was filed by university or K through 12, and then office. So you had to know which office worked on it, which was frustrating because say you're in Texas and you didn't have any proposals out, you would help Baltimore with the proposal and then you'd save it in the Texas folder. But then you would never know where to go back and find it unless you knew who worked on it. And so it just didn't make sense. And then science and tech had theirs by market and then by year because it was just a whole huge mess. And so I think I just couldn't do my job. And I was like, I just need to get organized. And people liked the idea, but nobody wanted to take it on because it was so much work and it was not really an exciting project. But if you're like me, it's cleaning up a mess is really exciting once it's done.
Love it.
So our goals are to be consistent, intuitive, and inclusive. We met with each of the market leaders since this was changing their workflows and made sure that they agreed with what we were doing. And so my old firm, they had like a leader for each market. And so originally we wanted to have one server and then have it divided by market so we weren't bouncing around between the servers, but they didn't like that idea. And so we had to go back to the drawing board and we kept the individual servers, but we said it was going to be consistent across each market. And they were okay with that as long as they could still have their own separate servers. So getting them involved in the beginning really helped because they were all for it, because they were like, well, if I'm not having to do the work and it's going to be organized, then I'm happy, but it has to be a certain way. So just meeting with them up front really helped.
Right. Yeah. That buy-in is definitely important.
So these are all of our different servers, and we wanted to make sure they were aware of the ones that we were going to be like touching. So they are filed by. So we had a server for each market, and these are all of them.
I love this because I'm sure that many people on our call, our user group call, can relate to this screen, this idea, and just so many information being in so many different places.
And the crazy thing is, people didn't even realize that we had a lighting server or a FOSS server, and they were just going to certain people, like the smaller markets, they didn't even know where that information was. And so we are pulling it out from places and making it all just organized so people could find it and knew it existed.
Knowing it existed, the first step, right?
Yes. And so this is again showing how we covered all of our bases and we spoke to all of the different people. We spoke to people in communications. We spoke to the industry market leaders. We spoke to business development because they're in these servers a lot. And we wanted to make sure people knew what we were doing and that we were going to be doing it and give us their thoughts and opinions and their perspectives and everything like that before we just did it, because we wanted people to keep up with it, and without keeping them involved in the process, they probably wouldn't be as inclined to. So we wanted to let them know about the 3 major changes because we didn't want to go into all the little details because it's a lot and people probably didn't care. So we wanted to let them know that our major changes were all staff resumes would be saved on the Marcom server by Office because initially they were saved by market. So if you were trying to find a resume for a health professional, but then they were also including them on a higher education one, they had resumes across every server. They weren't being updated. So we wanted to have them, it just didn't make sense because unless you knew who was in what specialty, you had to go digging for stuff. And so we wanted everyone in the firm to have one resume, and then each resume could have their experience divided by sector so that there was only one place you were updating it, one place to look for it, and if you knew what office what they're in, you could find it. You weren't like, oh, I think this person works on health projects, I think, because there was a lot of cross projects that they did, and so just having the information scattered. And the original goal is to have everything in the CRM, but there's just so many people and all these moving parts and people coming and going. So this was a way to have it just in one place and condensed into one yeah, so
No.
that was a major change that we wanted them to be aware of. And then the communications materials, they were saved. We wanted to let them know that instead of having communications save their information in the communication server, and then marketing, if they happen to work on communications, saving it in their own server, that anything communications would be saved in one spot. So if a marketing coordinator worked on an award submission versus a communications person, because a lot of the local stuff our individual teams would do. And so we just wanted to have one place so that we could find all of our awards, we could find all of our submissions, and we weren't digging around for stuff if the communications team couldn't do it. So that was another major change. And then the biggest change was the opportunities were going to be saved in every market by client name and then by year, because they had all different ways of saying it or saving it. And so we were trying to become more client focused. And so this was the best way we thought to do it. And we bounced around some ideas, but we figured that this would be the most effective way to keep information organized. So this was the structure that we created, and every single market, health, education, commercial, science, and tech community, all of them are going to have this exact same file structure, and we organized the information from 3 years back so that we weren't organizing everything because that would take forever. But we were organizing it into these folders, and then the resources folder was the place for the market leaders to just put whatever they wanted there. So that was like the kind of like junk drawer for them. Whereas before it was just kind of like all on the server, whatever, anywhere. But there wasn't any consistency. So this was like, okay, every market will have opportunities by client year. Every market will have project sheets in a project sheets folder. And then everyone will have communications with the communications folders, and then resources. You can put meetings in there. You can put like different things for your office there. But we had a kind of a junk drawer space, so it wasn't crowding up the main page, so that if you're a marketing coordinator in like Baltimore, you'd be able to find something in California, and you wouldn't have to ask anyone because it was just intuitive and it made sense and it was consistent.
Just curious, why did you guys decide to only go back 3 years? Like, was that a magic number for you? Was there thought behind that?
So they did a server reorganization apparently 3 years ago, and it wasn't super successful, but a lot of the information, they said that anything prior to 3 years probably wouldn't be relevant, and they kind of already had like the stuff in the archive. There really wasn't much left in it because all of that stuff was in another archive. But they never really had a structure or system in place, and so people were just saving things every which way, and it was just impossible to find things. So, and then this was the calendar that we presented. We did this I did this the month of December, and so we wanted to make it clear that we are going to be archiving the material on the 29th. We'd be reorganizing it this week. We'd archive the next market the following Friday, and then work on it throughout the week, so that if people were working on a proposal, they would know that they needed to move it or just save it in the new structure before it got archived, so that we weren't messing up any folders. And so we presented this like early November. We created calendar invites. We presented this calendar so they could see visually when things were going, because we didn't want to mess up any files. And so we wanted people to have plenty of time to just move it, and we had the folders created well in advance. So everyone was on the same page because it was so many moving parts and pieces and so many people across multiple offices and everything. We just wanted to make sure people were all on the same page. And then we wanted everyone to know that starting January 1st, everyone will start saving in the new structure. So we gave them a deadline that in the new year, everything would be saved like this, and it's to everyone's benefit. And I think it worked out pretty well because over the holidays, it's kind of slower. And so it gave everyone like a hard start date, and everything was organized by January 1st so that they could start fresh in the new year, and everyone knew what was going on.
That's fantastic. So overall, like, what if you had to sum up kind of the success or the highlights or what surprised you?
I think what surprised me was like, I'm trying to think, they had somebody that worked, I guess, behind the scenes on the servers that nobody even knew about. And so I got to work with him a lot because some of the things got kind of messed up, I guess. And so we had to recover a lot of files. And so just working with the IT team and understanding like the back end of servers, I think was interesting. And I didn't know all that went into it. So that was kind of surprising. And it was also surprising how many people don't pay attention until it affects them. And then they come, where's my proposal? Where's this? Where's that? No, I can't find it. And then, so like we communicated this several times. We sent out emails, we presented it on all the different calls, we presented it on the communications call. And it just surprised me how many people really don't pay attention until it affects them. But I think I got a lot of positive feedback that they loved it, that a lot of the newer firms, those marketing coordinators would send me, we had like spotlight awards, and they would send me spotlight awards thanking me for the work that I did because they were so confused and they had so much trouble finding stuff. And so it was nice to help out newer people coming in, because I was a new person coming in. And I was just like, I can't find anything, but I'm not going to complain about it. I'm going to do something about it. And so people are like, it was just nice to hear all the positive feedback from similar people with the same like complaints and issues, but they were too scared to like do anything.
Yeah, for sure. If someone was in your, similar situation when you first started, what would be your biggest piece of advice for them as they start out on this endeavor? To either help reorg, to completely help get everybody on the same page, if people are scattered either across like servers or offices, what would be kind of your biggest piece of advice?
I think I would say the best piece of advice would be to find somebody that is kind of like a mentor or somebody kind of like higher up that you could talk to, because I was just like wanting to do it, but like having somebody that's worked there for a while and that can have your back and can not promote you, but like help elevate it to the right people was really helpful. So finding the right people to talk to and get on like your team really, really helped, because I was the one that did it, but my mentor, who was the knowledge manager, who like sat with the C-suite and stuff like that, she was the one that really helped get these going and helped have my back and helped me get on all of the important calls. So finding somebody to talk to and get buy-in for and just explain the situation, I think really, really helps. And because I was just ready to start it, but she helps me take a step back and do strategy sessions and help me get in front of the right people to get their opinions. And that was really helpful. So I think just don't be afraid to throw out an idea, but always get somebody to buy into it to help promote your idea. To get it in front of
that's great advice. Yeah. It's great advice in life, like just in any of our, kind of business careers and all that kind of stuff. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for being our guest speaker. Is there any other words of wisdom or things that you want to share with the group before we jump off?
I don't think so, but I guess if they have any questions or need advice about anything and want to reach out, you can give them my email and
I will do that
to reply.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. And yes, I will share all of your information with the group, and we'll follow up if anybody has any information. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Here is Lindsay's information. If you didn't all the way make it onto my second screen. There we go. Do you guys have any questions or things that you found interesting about her kind of journey and story? Can you guys relate to the scattered information across many different places.
Oh, yeah.
When
This is really good information because I have been tasked at evaluating some of the structure and as it goes along with co-essential where things go in the system, identifying the gaps that they'll need for putting information together in the future. So this was helpful to find out what her plan had been.
I definitely liked when I first met her, talked to her, the thing that kept coming up was that she spent time interviewing people, and that was so valuable that she got insights, and that she would learn, oh, you're hiding what information where, and that, when you just send out an email saying, hey, where is everybody's information, it didn't come out. But when she actually sat down and talked to people or called them, that she learned so much more about kind of the information, where it was living, how it was handled, which was really interesting. So if you definitely have the ability to talk to people along the way, Megan, I would.
Oh, I'm asking all the questions because I'm new to the firm, so they kind of expect that across the board.
Perfect. Anyone else on the call that has either gone through kind of a restructuring or documentation process like she did, that has anything to share, or best practices or experience that you've had?
Courtney, I know you're also involved in SMPS. Did they have any type of resources, or do you have resources where it might be good to start from in capturing the right information? How to identify? I'm going back to listen to your webinars from the Build to Win, so I haven't done that yet, but.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you take some time to look at the My SMPS discussion post, there might be one that's already out here. The other thing you could do is also post. I know that there are groups that are specific to, I get these emails, but I'm not the best at like navigating the internal once I actually get in here, but I feel like there's one that has something to do with CRM or tech or something to that degree. So I think that you could definitely post that question to those, there we go, communities, to those areas. So those might be able to help you out and get some discussion going if you don't find a discussion post already. Anyone else have resources for Megan that come to mind? I think everybody has the ability to unmute yourself, but if you don't, drop me a chat and I'll unmute you. Awesome. Do you guys have any questions or topics that you want to talk about in our last 5 to 10 minutes together? We'll look up our next guest speaker, Bobby, and he is a principal for construction market consultants. Will be, joining our user group. That will be, he hasn't told me the specific topic yet, so I'm going to follow back up with him and see if he's nailed that down. We've been talking about several options, but I don't think he has nailed it down yet. Does anybody know Bobby Darnell? I think he's out in the well, I want to say Atlanta or like South Carolina, somewhere on the east side of things. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. Sorry that we had technical miscommunication with Eventbrite. We'll get that cleaned up. And this is the number that we always use for our marketing and our CRM calls. So if you want to drop it in on your calendar, you'll just always have it. The user group for marketing is on the first Wednesday of the month. And then CRM is usually on the second Thursday of the month. We had to move this one because of a conference. But usually we have first Wednesday, second Thursday, and it's always this Zoom number. So you can just drop it on your calendar. While I was on our website, we did just announce today our next virtual workshops. So if you're looking for some workshop help, we've got 4 that are coming up. Specifically on Cosential, that is the CRM system that most of our clients use, so that's the one that we tend to do trainings on. If you are looking for a system agnostic or some other kind of virtual workshop, definitely drop us a word. I'm happy to put together any sort of training or webinar that there's a need for. So you guys have a fantastic rest of your Thursday. Unless anybody else has anything, then we can go ahead and jump off early and you can get some time back in your day.
Thanks, Courtney.
Sounds good. Well, you guys stay safe, Natalie. Sorry to hear about all the craziness that's going on there. You'll definitely bunker down and stay safe.
Well, I just see they emailed out that they're gonna do a protest at 5, like 3 blocks from our office. So anybody who is in the office is to go home and at like by 3:30.
Yeah, I'd be heading out about now.
Yeah, well, hopefully no damage. Our office is brand new, so.
I know, and all that glass, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll keep you informed if anything happens.
Please do.
Well, thank you for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll do a recap on our website. So if you need to share the video with anybody or Megan refer back to it later, you definitely can. She had some good information for us. Y'all have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye, guys.